Good evening. I'm Ryan Popple. I'm the CEO pro ter. I'm also a proud member of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group and a member of the Business Advisory Council of the California League of Conservation Voters. Silicon Valley, where we are celebrating tonight, it's most frequently associated with change and innovation, with the future and with technology. And in the history of Silicon Valley, we have led the world in technologies like semiconductors, internet, mobile, biotech, solar, internet. And these technologies have generated a tremendous amount of economic productivity. Silicon Valley Leadership Group represents 1 out of 3 private employees in Silicon Valley. So this is a booming innovation economy. We're frequently visited by groups from other parts of the world wanting to create Silicon Beaches or Silicon Slopes or Silicon Russia. And they're trying to replicate the talent level, the diversity, the leadership position we have in technology. So we celebrate technology all the time in Silicon Valley. It really is kind of the center of the private economy. But I think we all know, especially here, that technology alone doesn't necessarily drive any human or environmental improvement. Technology is a tool, it's economic productivity. But at the heart of why we're developing technology, or what we should be doing in Silicon Valley, the best of what we do, it improves human lives, it improves the planet. So how do you get that? You get that if you're guiding technology, or if you're guiding innovation with heart and soul, if you have a sense of purpose, if you have a mission. I once heard a really interesting comment about the financial crisis about larger banks. And the comment was that banks really need to figure out what their purpose is. And their purpose is not to make money. They got to go back to who founded that bank and why did they do it. One of our members who's here tonight from Silicon Valley Bank, I think it's one of the banks that most epitomizes having a sense of purpose beyond just making money. They know who they are and what they do. And that's broad for Silicon Valley Leadership Group. A lot of you don't know this. Silicon Valley Leadership Group was founded over 40 years ago. It's one of the oldest business leadership groups in the Bay Area. It was founded by David Packard, who's a co-founder of Hewlett-Packard. And David Packard, one of the things he was famous for, he's one of the first technology leaders, without even putting a name on it, to talk about stakeholder value. So, our traditional business framework is maximize shareholder value. Well, I think we've all learned, if we've been paying attention, that there are some unintended consequences of that if the only thing we do is optimize short-term shareholder value. So Dave Packard was one of the first to ask, what is the responsibility of a business to all of its stakeholders, to its employees, to its community, to its customers, to its suppliers, thinking about a business as a partner within a network. So David Packard was a tremendous leader in moving that philosophy forward, but he also founded the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. The Silicon Valley Leadership Group initially was set up with about a dozen technology companies that aggressively competed against each other, but they managed to get together and talk about some of the bigger problems that Silicon Valley was facing 40 years ago. And oh, by the way, those problems are still with us today. Initially, they were worried about energy. Imagine that. Today, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, it really is the champion of having a heart and soul around technology. My friend Carl Gordino, who's the CEO of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, you see Carl most often at philanthropic events trying to make sure that the tech companies in this area, both large and small, don't forget about our stakeholders. So today it's grown to an organization of 400 companies. Many of the most prominent business leaders in the Bay Area participate in the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and it really gives us a forum to think about something more than just our company or individual technologies. So it's an incredibly important group, and today it is the group in Silicon Valley that is leading the charge from a business perspective on things like equal access to infrastructure, the expansion of transit, affordable housing, education, childhood nutrition. So it's not a business council that gets together and worries about software development kits or Web 2.0. It's a group of business leaders that care about their community and are trying to use business for good. So it's a real honor and a privilege for me tonight to present this award to Greg Becker, who is the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank and the chairman of Silicon Valley Leadership Group, also a man I consider a good friend.
have a broken wrist. I don't think it'd be good to have me hold that for the entire comments. Ryan, thank you much for your comments. For those of you who don't know what Ryan's company does, he's the CEO of a company called Proterra, and Proterra is the first mass transit electric bus company. And for those people who have sat... I rode up here from the valley with Carl, and as we went through San Francisco, and it was a little warm, rolled down the windows, and you get that nice diesel fuel in your lungs, you can appreciate how great it would be to have all electric mass bus transportation in all major cities. So Ryan and his team are doing truly visionary things with their product. And what's also incredible is we talk a lot about in campaigns today about jobs and where jobs exist and jobs going overseas, where his company manufactures their batteries and buses is actually in California. So truly a visionary leader in the conservation area and electrical area. So thank you so much, Ryan and Proterra. It is that same what I'll call visionary leadership that has led the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and Ryan did such a great job describing the background of the leadership group. And from its founding, and I just want to reinforce what Ryan said because I think it's so important. It's so easy that businesses today get labeled in a way that it's about businesses and it's about the bottom line. It's the bottom line is the only thing that matters. And from the day I joined the board, from the day of my first meeting, and you listen to Carl, who's the CEO of the leadership group, and you listen to the other executives around the table, they don't talk, in fact, they talk almost zero about bottom line and profitability. It's about what are we going to do to have an impact in our community? What are we going to do about transportation? How are we going to make it easier? What are we going to do about housing? What are we going to do about homelessness? What are we going to do about the conservation areas? What are all these things? And I really think it's a unique business organization that I feel very proud to be part of. And I know when we go back and talk to the responsible people back in DC, mostly responsible, we have such a different message than so many other business groups because what we represent isn't just about what we want policy that makes our companies more profitable. It's how do we have a positive impact on the community. And the 405 members, we talk about this on a regular basis, and again, I feel so proud to be part of it. So we talk about the past and we talk about the future. We look at 2016 as the year of the campaign, maybe not the campaign that all of you think about, maybe not the campaign that's getting all the press, but there's two campaigns that we're really driving forward, and I think they will relate to many of you. So this week, a measure that got passed, and I believe Carl and his team had a very big hand on with it with two other groups in the Bay Area, is Measure AA. And just to give you a perspective on what it's like to be part of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group board, I remember when Carl first brought this up, and this has been a journey for 7 years. He brought it up, and now think about a bunch of CEOs sitting around the table, and Carl comes in and we start talking about the Bay restoration. There was a brief moment that we went back into our normal CEO hats and board meetings, and we're like, what's that all about? And very quickly, Carl, with other experts, really talked about, again, getting back to the basics, our core, what is so important to us and the impact on the environment and the impact really on our communities. And very quickly got together and raised the money, supported the campaign, and have worked literally tirelessly for the last 5 to 7 years to help get that passed. And so to get that accomplished this year truly is a huge deal. So congratulations to the leadership group, but congratulations to all of us for making that happen. The second thing that's going to be coming up later this year in November is going to be pushing a transportation bill down in Santa Clara County. And for those people who either live down there, who've driven down there, obviously you know what it's like, traffic clearly getting into San Francisco or driving around San Francisco. For us to have an effective place to work, we need to improve the transportation environment. And it is about getting BART around the Bay. It's about high-speed train, the train service electrification. There are so many other things. It's bike paths. It's making it better for the environment. And we're going to be championing that. Carl is going to be stepping out of his role for a period of time. And if you can believe this, now take a chep. I know Carl's going to be mad that I bring it up, but he'll be working for the next 4 months, roughly 100 hours a week, to commit himself to making sure this gets done for the community that we have in Silicon Valley, and then also supporting other transportation measures around the area. So again, we're all better off from a community perspective. Ryan talked earlier about these choices that we make, and again, a lot of businesses think about the bottom line, and one of my favorite people in Washington, D.C. is the Secretary of Labor, Tom Perez, and he talks a lot about these false choices. False choices being it's about the bottom line or you're a conservation-minded person. And he always says that those sort of choices are false choices. You don't have to do that. You don't have to think that way. Those sort of approaches they can work together. And again, what I view is what the transportation bill is, what the restoration bill, all these things kind of fit into that mindset. And again, that's why I'm so proud of the leadership group. So on behalf of Carl Gardino, the CEO of the leadership group, and our 405 member CEOs, we are thrilled to get this award, and we're thrilled to partner with you on so many other future activities in the years to come. Thank you.